Support your state trooper.
I'm Trooper Dave Levendusky of the Indiana State Police.
Bob Cline, Robert Cline, PE 248.
When were you sworn into the Indiana State Police?
January the 15th, 1948.
And what was your retirement date?
55 years later.
55 years later? Is it up there? 81, that's what it
Yes,
says. What made you want to become an Indiana State Trooper?
I was standing in front of my dad, grocery store, he was an A&P manager, and a motorcycle went by, officer. It was Walter Eckert from Osgood, who was a trooper. And I said to Dad, wow, I'd like to be that. And I kept that in my mind. You've got a picture of Walter Eckert in the thing I've got for you. And I went off to the Army and tried to get in the MPs. And they said, no, you need to be a radio operator. That's typical in the Army. You need to be something besides what you want to be. And that's okay. It all worked out right. I came back, went to IU, and got on the state police January the 1st, 1948. January 15th, I'm sorry.
What was the hiring process like when you were going through the state police?
Well, there really wasn't much. The state police weren't hiring, but they told us, who's us, the 4 or 5 young men who wanted to get on, if we could go down to IU, to Institute of Criminal Law Administration. It's a 2-year course. If we passed it, they would hire us, but they made us sign a paper. We would go to the first recruit school. And I signed it, of course. And after we were on a year or so, and they had no recruit school, they turned us loose and let us be relieved of that signing.
So you went through the Criminal Justice Academy
Yes,
at IU. So you did not have to go through the State Police Academy?
No.
Okay. Where were you first assigned when you became a state trooper?
I went to Connersville Post and then was sent to Brookville to work on US 52 between Cincinnati and Indianapolis.
How did you get assigned to the Connersville Post?
I was assigned to the Indianapolis Post, and when we got to Indianapolis, in the meantime, the trooper who had been working at Brookville retired or resigned and took a city police job, and so then they transferred me to Connersville from Indianapolis. I would have been an Indianapolis trooper, but Connersville was nice.
How long were you at Connersville?
I was there about 20 years.
20 years, wow. What were some memorable experiences from your first few years as a trooper?
My first year, and I'd worked on US 52 up and down the road. I was tired. I came home and said to Rita, my wife, I said, they called me to a truck stuck in the berm or something up near Metamora. Come right along with me. She got in the car and went up, and when I got there, I found a truck wreck that had killed 4 people. And I thought, oh boy, I'm a rookie trooper. This is going to be it. I went to here came the Greyhound bus called the Sunshine Limited. He came up and I flagged him down and I said, would you take my wife back to Brookville? He went like this. Yes, I'll take her back. That bus driver thinks today he caught a trooper out with his girlfriend. And it was my wife. I said, come on, Rita, ride up with me. So that's kind of sticks in my mind. The saddest thing is when you get called to a place like over at Greensburg and Bill Rayner's been shot and killed. Or those are the tough days when you deal with a trooper being killed. But I decided, while I was a technician, I needed to learn something new. So I said, I'm going to take up the polygraph. So the sheriff at Richmond gave me a polygraph. And I brought it down to the post and turned it on. Works with Charlie Davis some. You probably remember him.
I've seen photos of
And
him.
I ran the polygraph. I've ran around 1,900 tests. Some of them were, it was nice to solve a murder case one time. I enjoyed the polygraph, the battles of it. And the had a man, they brought me down from Richmond to run him. He had killed 2 service station attendants, made them lay down, and he executed them. And I ran him, and finally he said, "Oh God, get this devil out of me. I did it. I feel sorry for their wives." And I testified in court to that. And the defense attorney came up and said, "Say it again." So I said, he said to me, "Oh God, get this devil out of me. You know, I feel sorry for their wives." He said, tell the court again what you say," he said. So I had to say it 3 times. And he said, "One more time." The judge finally said, he said it 4 times now, once to the prosecutor and 3 to you, "That's enough." So I got to step down. And the jury found him guilty and sentenced him to die in the electric chair. That was kind of that was a big case, an interesting case.
What was your first car?
It was a 1946 Ford Coupe that a detective owned or used over in Putnamville. He quit, and they striped the car and put a red light and siren on it and gave it to me. It was the only 2-door coupe I think the state police ever sent out to patrol.
Could you show us a picture of it?
Yes, yes. The 2-door coupe?
Yes.
Okay. Have to get it to ding up here. There it is, right there. It was taken at Harrison, Ohio by the Harrison City Police.
How long did you have that car?
I rented about 2 years, and one of the troopers retired, old Jake Neal at Connersville, so they took this one away from me, gave me Jake's car. And it was another Ford, but it was a regular size car.
Did you like this car?
The state gave me a Ford 2-door fast car when I was in Brookville after I wore out these 2, and I liked it. That was my favorite.
Which one was that?
I had 20 cars.
So the second car you got was your favorite car?
Third car.
Third car.
Third car.
Third car.
It
Was there anything you didn't like about this car, the 46?
I was happy to get this car and chase speeders up and down 52. I was happy with that car.
How fast did it go? Do you remember?
About 80 miles an hour is about the best you could get out of it. It was a 6-cylinder with no interceptor workings on it, but it was mine, and I got to patrol, and I'm 21 years old. I'm on patrol on US 52 when Jackie Robinson was playing at Cincinnati. You could walk on top of the cars from Indianapolis to Cincinnati. So it was good. It was a good experience.
Did you share the car with anyone, or was it your car?
It was my car.
Your car?
I was going up in Brookville, and they put out a dispatch that 2 fellows were coming my way. They were kidnappers, armed robbers, and escapees from the pen. And lo and behold, as I went up the street in Brookville, here they came and turned north on 1. So I started after them. And we got to the top of the hill, and they pulled off the road on the wrong side, and they fired at me. But I learned one thing. I always carried my shotgun, even as a colonel. I carried it strapped to my seat. I pulled the shotgun out and fired the shotgun, and a Greyhound bus driver saw the muzzle flash. He pulled the bus across the highway and blocked the road. So about that time, a couple of troopers drove up, and the gun battle stopped.
Wow, that's amazing.
But I didn't use a pistol. I used the old Winchester pump gun.
So out of all the cars that you've had, which one has been your absolute favorite car?
Okay. When they promoted me to major, myself and a fellow from up north, he had the northern half of the state and I had the southern half. And they gave us Mercuries with Lincoln engines as the test for the Ford Motor Company. And that was my favorite car.
Do you remember what year that was?
I can't remember. I have a picture of Rita standing by the car. It's in here, but it was my favorite car. It was a special car that Ford put out to test.
What did you like about that car?
It was deluxe. It was inside. Everything was deluxe, and it would get out and go. It went fast. It would go 140 miles an hour.
Were you assigned to any special details, such as the State Fair or the Indy 500?
Yes. I was an area captain, which I liked. It was a good job. Busy job, but you had 5 districts to take care of. And that's when Colonel Birch said, I'm going to enhance I'm going to expand your life a little bit. I'm going to put you in charge of the traffic of the 500-mile race. I'm going to give you a Jeep and a driver, and you can start out on 16th Street with all the traffic coming, and so I had that job for 2 or 3 years.
What was difficult about that position?
People. People coming at you from downtown Indianapolis, 6 lanes coming at you, and it never seemed to stop. After you got the people in, it was okay. You could go in and watch part of the race, and then go out when the people left, unless you got called in, like that's a snake pit for a riot.
Did that ever happen?
Yes. The second year, the Signal 10 came out that there was a riot in the snake pit. And I went in there, and our folks were getting hit and hurt. And there was probably 15,000 drunks, maybe 5 troopers. That's when I said, get behind me. We're going to walk out of here. And they said, you going to retreat? You going to retreat, Captain? I said, we're going to walk out of here, and then when we get out of here, we're going to put on our riot gear and go back and settle the problem. So we did, and went back in, and I told the guys in the line walking back, I said, if I see a beer bottle come at me, I want to see a tear gas canister go back. And they threw a bottle over my head, and Snuffy Smith from the post at Seymour threw a tear gas canister back, and that's when it turned our way. We were okay.
What kind of planning went into the traffic flow of the 500?
You have 6 lanes coming at you, come in 16th Street. I blocked off 2 lanes, one to send, they could go back, the city police and the buses. And one was the buses could have come out at us. And so 4 lanes coming out, 2 lanes going back, bus and city police. And it was steady. It started early in the morning. I got myself a room at IU, at the medical school, and I stayed there at nights. But I like the challenge of the 500, the people, and the people that you met, like Paul Newman, or A.J. Foyt. He was nice. And it's a high-profile detail. Yes. I was glad to get promoted to major, and I was up in the tower, then kind of running the thing from the tower. That's when Paul Newman came up and said to me, "Let me borrow your field glasses." And I said, "Oh." I saw who it was. He had beautiful blue eyes, but he took his sunglasses off. And he started looking up at the stands, and I said, "What are you looking at?" He said, I'm looking at the chicks. That's when I said, my God, man, you're the sex symbol of the world. Here you are looking up girls' legs in the grandstand at the 500-mile race. He kind of chuckled. And we talked back and forth about a lot of things. I said, don't you have a bodyguard? He said, nah, I just put a ball cap on, take my shirt tail out, put sunglasses on to cover my eyes, and I can get around. And he was very, very pleasant to deal with. Big movie star, Paul Newman is. It was. He's dead now. I had his son as his autograph, and I would never. A fellow in Annapolis said I would give you $2,000 for it. A fellow who bought autographs, and I said I'll never sell it as long as Paul Newman's alive. So I had it framed and gave it to my daughter.
Mm-hmm. What was your first promotion?
My first promotion was after 5 years. The technician was promoted to detective, and there was an opening, so I applied. There were 3 of us applied, and they gave it to me. So I was the district technician at Connersville, and I was a corporal. And then they promoted me to sergeant in that same job.
Can you explain what a technician is?
A technician deals a lot with photography. He develops the pictures, he prints them, he takes care of the drunkometers out in the district. And as I said to you before, I took up the lie detector, something I wanted to do. And you went to the scenes of crimes. That was an eye-opener. For a kid from Osgood, he goes out on murder scenes and all kinds of gruesome murders. The thing that surprised me most with because I did a lot of autopsies, and well, I didn't do them. Dr. Forney did them. I took the pictures and gathered the evidence. And occasionally we'd have a body we dug up, and that was a shock to me to see what was down and what we dug up and worked on. We were doing an autopsy on a lady who had been down only 13 months. She was in bad shape. And the sheriff came in and threw up. And I said, oh my God, get him out of here. And what I'd do, I don't smoke, but I carried menthol cigarettes, and I'd light up a menthol cigarette and blow it out my nose so I could handle the mess. And it was, I guess I shouldn't say mess, that's not nice to talk about deceased people like that, but it was a package.
How long were you a technician?
I was technician then on 10 years, and Dr. Forney and Dr. Harger said, you need to come to Indianapolis and be a instructor at the drunkometer schools. So I took that on. And that's one day when the first sergeant retired at Connersville. I'd been there 10 years, and I said, I've done about everything. Of course, you had to stay at the post every other Friday and every other Saturday. You stayed at the post, and you ran the post. You were the post commander. And when the first sergeant retired, I thought, well, I've been running this post at nights, on weekends. I think I can run it during the day. So I put in for it, and by golly, I got it. And it was good to be first sergeant. You could do a lot of things around the post that you thought you ought to do or should be done. And then, after about a year, the lieutenant retired. And I thought, well, why not? I put in for the lieutenant's job, and that's when I became the district commander. I was given the district commander, district commander, well, I went on from that. But that's when Superintendent Conkle called that time and said, Bob Cline, he was from sales, kind of, first name basis. This is superintendent. I said, well, hi, superintendent. He said, I'm going to promote you to captain, head of Area 4. Don Carlisle has moved on. I said, well, superintendent, I've been here all these years, 20 years now in Connersville. And that's when he said, are you hard of hearing? Are you having a hearing problem? Is this phone not working right? And I said, no, sir. Superintendent, it's working fine. He said, what day is it? I said, well, sir, it's Wednesday. He said, okay, Friday's your last day at Connersville. Get all of your stuff out of there and take it to Richmond, where you live, and be in my office at 10:30 a.m. Monday morning after you stop at the garage and get your different car and you get a new badge. So I thought, when I drove down from Richmond to Indianapolis that morning, I thought, oh my God, what have I gotten myself into? Or what has he got myself into? But it worked out, I guess.
So what did you do as area commander?
Area commander, you're over 5 lieutenants in southwest eastern Indiana. Territory familiar to me. So you do the inspections, you do meetings, you do trouble problems when there's trouble. And they assigned me a helicopter, Copter 4. And I had a pilot, Joe Norman. What was Joe's? Anyway, Joe, I said to Joe, what happens if that blade up there breaks, Joe? He said, Captain, every problem you've ever had ceases to exist immediately. Oh, okay. And we used the helicopter for details down the river and things at Camp Atterbury and all kinds of problems. But it was nice. The area commander was okay. And I kind of got used to it. You had Bob Pond at Seymour, who was a great guy. He'd been shot in a gun battle. And and then they called me in and said, we're going to do away with the area concept. We're going to promote you to major, and we're going to promote Steve, can't think of his last name, Major of the North, and you're going to be head of everything in the southern part of Indiana. You'll be driving back and forth to Evansville and everything in between. And I did. Every other week I'd be in Evansville and coming back. Take me 2 weeks to get back. Almost. But that was a good job. But then Colonel Birch said to me, I'm going to expand your life a bit. That's what he said at the 500-mile race. He said, I'm going to let you be the inspector for the entire state of Indiana. It's going to take you a month or so, but you're going to be, and I'm going to pull Steve out of there. I'm going to let you inspect every car, every building, every person, every gun. And I thought, okay. So you get a haircut every week, you get your car washed every week, shine your shoes. And I did. I got a chance to go to every post and inspect every person. And you know, that was expanding my life a bit.
How long did it take you to go to all the posts?
Over a month, about a month and a quarter.
Do you know about how many people were part of the state police at that point?
I think there were about 1,000 troopers. I think so. Mm-hmm. That your job was to inspect every person, every pistol, every shotgun, and then Colonel Randy comes on the scene and says, I talked to Superintendent Shettle, we're going to transfer you to headquarters. That's like, oh my, not me in headquarters. So they transferred me and then put me in the head of the traffic division, I guess. And I worked that for some time. And then they decided that I should be the head of the traffic division and the criminal, all the operations in the state police. Governor Bowen had a facility at his place you could live. He said, I'd like to have somebody live here for 6 months. I said, oh, I'll go and live 6 months. I stayed 5 years. But it was, and Captain Smalley was there. We stayed at the governor's mansion. And we were there when President Ford came and several people. So it's kind of a big job.
Did you work security when you were at the governor's mansion?
No.
No.
I didn't. They had some people do that. Now I understand the governor has his own security department, his own force.
So did you just stay at the governor's mansion? Is that all it was?
Well, that was the place. I just stayed there, and when some detail came up, like President Ford came and different people, you kind of worked. That was your headquarters to work out of.
So when you retired, what rank did you hold?
Well, one day, Colonel Rainey and John Shettle came in and said, "We're going to promote you to lieutenant colonel and put you in charge of all of this." Okay, that's fine. And then they came in a later time, several months or probably half a year later, Superintendent said, "I'm going to have the State Police Board promote you to full colonel, and you're going to come and work beside me." And we did a lot of traveling. We went to South Dakota. We went a lot of places the superintendent goes on, and I went to those. When he was sick, I kind of took his place temporarily. So it was nice to say I served in every rank from trooper to colonel, and that's what's up on the board on the wall there. Some other folks have gone through. I think Colonel Rainey and I are the only persons who ever went through as police officers, or police officers is not nice, as police personnel, enforcement. There were fellows that went through and made colonel, and they had time in the computers and other items. But I got to spend all my time in uniform. Wow. When it came time to leave, it was time to leave. I went back to Richmond and enrolled in IU East to pick up another degree, behavioral science.
What was the most dramatic change you saw during your career?
The department moved from a country police department, like the troopers hung out at the local gas station or hardware store, and they got to know the people, and they were part of the community. And I think that with the change in the computers and the things that happened, the troopers became more involved with that phase of policing. Not that that's good or bad, they're both good because they were different times. Back in 1948, there were no interstates, and that made a difference in the state police when the interstate system moved in, and they were assigned to those kinds of things. You were kind of on your own back in 1948 and 49 and 50 in those days. If you had a trooper friend who was in the next county, that was a guy that you relied on if you had a problem. And you were on your own a lot. That's not bad. Gives you a chance to spread out and show that you could run this thing.
What was the uniform like when you first started?
It was boots and breeches. We had Eisenhower jackets that we wore instead of the blouse. We had a blouse, but the Eisenhower jacket was the one that you wore most of the time when you worked. And you had a cross-draw holster that you always drew your weapon from the other side. And when they changed that to having a holster on your right side, or for a person left hand on the left side, several fellows rebelled, and they went ahead and changed their pistol around, even though it was supposed to be on the left side. They moved it to the other side that they liked better. So that was an interesting thing. in your car you had, in the trunk of course, you had some fusees in a can, and you got a blanket to cover up dead people or whatever, you know, whatever. And that was about it. And you had an old camera, and with the camera you had to focus it, you had a focusing cloth. You put over your head, stick your head underneath the focusing cloth, and see the image on the ground glass on the camera. So that was I think your friend that you adopted was your 12 gauge Winchester pump gun, loaded with double-aught buck, and that's why I was told by an old trooper, don't carry it in the trunk. I remember a trooper from Shelbyville was given an assignment, and he called in and said, my trooper's in the car, in the trunk, Connersville, my trooper's in the trunk. My shotgun was right next to my legs and strapped to the front seat. But, so that was your equipment. Some of the fellows were given pot flares if they worked on US 40 or something. They were pot flares to put out, but you were on your own, but that's all right.
Did you like the uniforms when you first started?
Oh yes, I remember putting it on the first day, and they took me to Connersville, and I kept it on. They said you can take it off tonight when you go to bed. But the boots were fine. They did away with the boots because of the cost. They said it cost money for the boots. But you can see state police departments today who have boots they stand out differently. I thought that the boots and breeches had to stand out as troopers.
What were some big changes to the uniform that you remember?
Well, that they decided we should have a summer shirt of some kind. So it had a little different color. We had summer shirts we wore. And they kept the Stetson hat, which I'm pleased that they kept the Stetson hat. But they did away with our boots and breeches, and they did away with our Eisenhower jackets. And I'm trying to think of any other changes. Well, we went to a different shoe, and I remember Stanley Guth said to me, "You're pretty sharp with your lab and your car and everything." He said, "If you would learn to spit shine, I'd give you the best in the state." And I always shined my shoes with polish and rag, but I learned to spit shine after Stanley Guth said, "You need to learn to spit shine." So I spit shined my shoes. I carried a pair of shoes spit shined in my car when I was captain. And one day I stopped at the Seymour Post and changed shoes at the gas pump. And a trooper told me later on, he said, "I saw you change shoes, and I knew we were in for it." No, I just wanted to look sharp. The Connors, or the Seymour troopers were sharp. They had a fellow named Denny Haycox, who was supposed to be the best looking uniform in the state of Indiana. And I wasn't going to let Denny Haycox get ahead of me on my spit shine shoes. So I carried a pair in the car that I'd put on when they go in the Seymour Post. One of the little idiosyncrasies, I guess, of mine.
What was a difficult case or situation that you had when you were a trooper?
Well, I think we have to put the trooper deaths over in one category. I was sent to a plane crash near Shelbyville, and a DC-9 had gone down. And when we got there, I sat out in the high school gymnasium, put I think put down 60 some odd tarpaulins to lay the bodies on. Then I went out to the scene of the crash, and they said there are no bodies. Everybody in the plane had been thrown through the metal of the plane, just like through a colander, and all we had was 6 caskets full of human remains. Everybody mixed in, and we weighed the caskets, took the remains to the cemetery, buried it, came back and weighed the empty caskets and said we had X number of pounds of human remains. That was a toughie to deal with because there's so many lives were lost and in such a bad way. It's always tough when you get called, though some troopers killed. They had a gun battle at Seymour with 2 bank robbers from Michigan. And I sent down there, and Pond had been shot through the hand. He was a lieutenant. And Kellum stopped the bank robbers at Scottsburg. And they shot and killed Kellum's. I had to do Kellum's autopsy and the pictures and help with the autopsy surgeon. At least they caught the bank robbers, and the bank robbers are no longer with us. Had a shootout with them. That's when Pond was shot through his hand and through his shotgun. And the superintendent always let Pond keep that shotgun with a bullet in it. And Bob Pond was quite a good officer and a good lieutenant at Seymour. Why do I say these things? They seem to come to mind. People. I remember a trooper was running after a criminal, and he dropped dead. And so I went on down, wanted to get there. And I said, where is his body? And he said, well, he's at such and such a funeral home. I said, is there another state policeman with him? No, they start the autopsy. And that's the one time I kind of cranked a little bit. I said, do you mean to tell me we have a trooper who's doing an autopsy on one of our troopers, and there's no trooper standing there in uniform beside him? There was a trooper showed up quickly. I just felt that way, that if you're working on a trooper and he's dead, you need to have another uniform standing beside him. A quirk, a good quirk.
Mm-hmm. Were you involved in any specialty teams?
Yes. They decided we were going to have SWAT teams. So they gave us a second chance vest, and they gave us a shotgun, and they said, now you're a member of the SWAT team. Go down to Camp Atterbury and train. And yeah, I had a second chance vest and a shotgun. Well, I already had a shotgun, but they said, that's your equipment for the SWAT team. Now they've got tanks, trains, planes, everything, which is fine. Mm-hmm. But we went on a couple sessions that way. And I'll tell you one story. They had a drug raid down near North Vernon. And as a captain, I'd go. So one night we went down to the drug raid. The troopers were surrounding the place, and I was at the front door looking in, and I could see the fellow inside reach up over the door and get a machete. And I kicked the door down. And I'm not being heroic. I made a mistake. I kicked the door down, and the next thing I knew, I drove back to Richmond and ended up on the surgeon's table. I had a hernia from kicking the drug door down. I should not have been trying to be whatever I was trying to be. I was trying to get in the house, before the guy got the machete and the troopers coming around the door in the back. That was my reasoning.
Did you choose to be on the SWAT team, or did they assign you to the SWAT team?
They assigned you.
Assigned you?
Yeah.
So you didn't have a choice in that one?
No, there was, they called it, they didn't want to call it SWAT team, Colonel Delman. He wanted to call it the Emergency Response Team, ERT. Okay? Whatever you call us, it's okay. They finally got more equipment, and we had some training at Seymour, at Camp Atterbury. But I had a couple sessions on the SWAT team. It was okay. It was good. It was a good idea, and it grew. And now look what they have. Oh my goodness.
Have you met any interesting people, any celebrities or politicians while you've been a trooper?
Well, I think the one that I liked the most, well, yes, I got to meet Paul Newman, and I liked Paul Newman. He was very, and we've talked about that. He was, I didn't think he'd be like that, but he was very down to earth and very nice. Of course, when any time a trooper gets to meet a president, and that's something. I got to meet President Nixon. I graduated at the FBI Academy. We graduated in the East Room of the White House, and got to take my wife and daughter and Bob Conkle, the superintendent. But that was nice to have the superintendent shake your hand, or have the president shake your hand. The superintendent was there, and give you your diploma. That's the graduation of the FBI Academy. But I'm trying to think of a couple other. There were other types from the Hollywood were there. Jim Garner. If Jim Garner was there, you had to surround him with troopers, because he would be surrounded by a crowd. Now, Paul Newman could get away with it, with his sunglasses, his cap, and an old shirt, but Jim Garner stood up tall, and when Jim Garner was at the 500-mile race, he had to have protection. Not nobody's going to hurt him, but they were just going to mob him. Yeah, that was an interesting thing.
You mentioned that you went to the FBI Academy.
Yes, I did.
What was that? What did you learn at the FBI Academy?
The FBI Academy is in Washington, D.C., and you go through everything that an FBI agent does except federal law. He gets another month of federal law. And you start out, you have to write papers, you have to make speeches, but you have people who come in and talk to you, lecture, that are have been paramount in the FBI's history of solving crimes. I wanted to go very bad, and it took me 2 years to get there, and 3 letters to Superintendent O'Neill, who said to me when he called me in, "I'm getting tired of getting letters from you. Go to the FBI Academy. I'm just going to send you." It was the best 3 letters I've written. I think it's at the top of the line in police training, the FBI Academy. Bob Dylan and I were sent to, we're graduates of Harvard. Yeah, they sent us to the Harvard Homicide School. And we drove up in a couple months. But we stayed at Harvard University, and I got to tell this is too good not to tell. We were all sitting there in some kind of bleachers, all of us, different men from different parts of the country. And here come a surgeon, I guess he was, autopsy surgeon, and he walked out and he had his hand behind him, like this, and he walked over here, and there was a body laying on the table, and he went, "Whop!" like that, and a couple of guys fainted. He said, "That is not a human being. I said, it's not now. Sure. But this is a surgeon. I thought our people, he would approach it differently. But he got our attention. This is not a human being. He walked. And then that dead person's body. Then he went on, did the autopsy, and explained some things he did that other surgeons don't do. But that was, I guess that's memorable.
You went to IU and you went to the criminal justice.
Yes.
What did you learn there when you were down at IU?
Well, here's a kid from Osgood who, played mumbly peg and things like that. A town of about 1,000 people, and your school was, I think it was 19 in my class. When we graduated, I didn't even have to go to my senior year. All the senior year, the principal said, "Oh, go back and go to work. Come back for graduation, but don't come back anymore after Christmas." Okay, so then to get to go to IU and be thrown in with people like Professor Kuchen or other law professors that lectured you, and there was a man named Davis lectured us all the time on psychology. He raised a chimpanzee with his child, and he lectured about how he raised a chimpanzee with his child. I'm not sure which one was the head. But anyway, to take a kid from Osgood who went to a high school that if you didn't play basketball, you weren't important. So that's why I took up music and got in the band at the high school, but because I didn't play basketball. And to go from a little high school in Osgood, Indiana, where it didn't matter if you showed up or not. I got to tell one story. At English at the Osgood High School was taught by the coach of the basketball team. If you didn't play basketball, you didn't care. And you had to learn a poem a week to graduate from his English class. This has got another part to it. And you'd have some kid would stand there and hold a poem, and you'd read it. And Jake would be behind the paper reading. Yeah, that's good, you did good. I just read it. And when I went to IU, Dr. Sherwood, I'll never forget him, I liked him. He finally called me in after the first day, and he said, "What in the world school did you go to? That paper you wrote is awful. We're going to get you worked out of it." I got a C I got an F, and finally got a C. And I learned to write from Dr. Sherwood's class, his English class, as compared to Osgood, where all I had to do was read what the kids held up in the first row. You'd stand up next to the desk and read it, and the teacher would say, "Oh, that's good. You did good on that film." So IU was a big eye-opener for me. It's a chance. Dr. Davis, the psychologist that taught, you went to his class, and the law courses, sociology. I was introduced to another world that I never knew in Osgood, because here's Osgood and here's IU. It was the door. It was the door for me that opened, and I was able to use it. I think I used it, what I learned at IU over and over again. And then I went back to get my IU East, my degree in sociology, and I liked it, and I enjoyed going to IU, and they were very nice. They gave me I showed you the award they gave me, but to get back to what you said, I wander off in these talking things. Going to Osgood, Indiana, a town of, they said 1,000 people. I think they lied. I don't think there were 1,000 of us. Now they put up signs that says 3,000 or something. But yeah, IU was the door that opened for me to do a lot of things. To help me on my path through the state police department.
Do you have any funny stories from your time as a trooper that you want to share with us?
You didn't have any air conditioning in those days. And you had wool shirts with neckties and everything. And I'm going down Indiana 46. The weather must have been 110 in the shade, and there's no shade. And I found there's no air conditioner. So I finally opened up my uniform and took my tie off, and I was driving down the road. And a bumblebee went in here and got me. Before I could get the bumblebee out, I was out of my car with ripping my clothes off. And Greyhound bus driver said, told him down at Patterson, there's a trooper up there tearing his clothes off. And I said, yes, I did, Sam Luce. I did, Sam. I was being stung by this bumblebee. Was just not a one stinger guy. He'd sock you. But I got out. I got that. But I got nicknamed Bumblebee by the Harrison, Ohio Police Department. So I guess that was funny. It was as you look back at it. Here's this trooper out ripping his shirt off, trying to get the bumblebee out of his shirt. It seems that you get so immersed or embedded, whatever the word is, in misery and death, and like the Coliseum blowing up, and you're up there picking at people's fingers, or you're going to a plane crash where there's no bodies.
What are some things you learned about yourself during your years as a trooper?
I learned to get along with all kinds of people. Troopers were all different, all good, bad. Yeah, well, they were a lot of good guys, but they were different. And to work at a post, you have to meld into the people. You know, maybe you didn't like something that someone said or did, but you didn't. You learned to roll with the punch a little bit. Not that it was a bad thing. I remember being at the post, that at the radio, you'd run the radio part of the time, and Jake Neal was there, and Jake was in that picture. You see up Hot John Eckert, Jake Neal's in that picture. They got to calling in Jake, cars calling in. Finally, Jake shut the switch down and said, broadcast out over the air, "There's nobody here to receive." So you kind of had to laugh at some of the silliness that happened.
What did you learn about people in general while you were a trooper?
Oh my. So different than growing up in Osgood, where you had a dog and a cat, and you knew your neighbor, and then you go on the state police and you become a man. Yeah, you come, instead of a youngster in Osgood that's teenager, you go from teenager to trooper, and you act accordingly. You act like they acted. Because they were all, I admired people like Warren Taplinger and Jim Sheets from Cambridge City. Yeah. You learn to admire them, and you grow from this child, man-child, into a person. Teaches you to be a worthwhile person with your fellow man, your fellow people. course, I was taken in the Army during wartime. In wartime, basic training is not easy. Even though I got to play the trumpet and got out of KP, I still went through the basic training. And that helped me when I came, went on the state police. I was no longer a youngster, a young lad. I was a young lad who had been in wartime training at an Air Force base. It probably helped me a lot when I went to Connorsville, and also a fellow by the name of Warren Tafflinger, a trooper. He's also on that, I think he's on that thing that I got. There's about 4 or 5 guys. Tafflinger was another fellow who helped me a lot as I was coming from college to the state police. He's also the one that called in and told the Post, "For your information, 275 got married yesterday." Because they told me, don't tell the troopers that you're going to get married. They'll put you in jail. Bob Dillon said, I spent my wedding night in the Spiceland City Jail. They put me in jail, and they're going to do it to you. So we came down, Rita and I came down to Madison, creeping around with the coveralls on, and got our license, and then got down and found a Catholic priest. And I said, would you marry us? He said, you got a license? He said, yes. He said, I'll marry you. So he married us. And what's that all mean? It means you're growing from a little kid in Osgood and his dog and cat to the Army, to the state police, and you have to meld in to these other troopers.
What do you want people to know about the Indiana State Police?
You normally say it's a fine organization, but it's more than a fine organization. It becomes your kin, your brother, or your sister, whoever it is. And you become their brother. And if you don't adopt that change in your life, then leave. Don't stay around and pester people who are molding together into a unit. It's a fraternity, really a fraternity. I was so proud the day that the Supreme Court Justice issued the oath of office. But then I was more proud when I got to the Connorsville Post and got to work with people like Tafflinger or Jim Sheets or whoever it was. And you were accepted by them for some reason. I think Tafflinger told them, he's from Osgood, he's okay. So because you're kind of going into a clique, because these guys have worked hard and done a lot of wild things, shooting, accidents, all the things that they've encountered. So it is I guess it's a fraternity. Mm-hmm. It really is. But it's a special fraternity, not a college fraternity where you drink beer and go yoo-ha. You become very close to these folks, and they become close to you. When you go through something like the state police, or I guess what it is, you gather a lot of, along the top is the corporal, sergeant, first sergeant, and all that, the colonel. But there's things along the bottom. You'll find, at one time, for some reason, I had pretty good shooter. I got the Possible Club, which is perfect score. And then the state had about 20 of us that were consistently high, and they made a thing called Distinguished Expert. Mm-hmm. And they made that. I don't know whether they still have it or not.
We do still have it.
Good. And the Possible Club, and then of course the driving. John Stedel said, "How could you wear out 20 cars, Bob Cline, on the state police and not have a wreck?" I said, "I learned to drive in Osgood." I got a tie clasp from the president, And Gerald Ford, isn't it? Mm-hmm. This is the emergency response team with a shotgun and the second chance vest. Oh my! I'm sorry, but it was. I never thought I would ever even be anything on the state police, but I was just at the right time. I was along. These are things that I accumulated along the way. Retired state police officer. And I always liked the belt buckle thing. That's kind of neat.
Do you have any words of wisdom for young troopers on the road today?
Be honest with yourself. Be honest with your fellow troopers. It's quite a change from Osgood or Richmond or whatever city it is. Be proud that you're a truly, whether one of Indiana's finest. And there may be somebody over here that doesn't fit that, but you fit that, and the people you work with fit that. You're going to be, and you are, when you walk in that door and take that oath from the Supreme Court Justice, that's your first step into being one of the finest. And then you go out and you have the pleasure of associating with the troopers who have been there several years, and they mold you, and you listen to them, and they'll mold you in the right way. You'll know if something's not right, but what a fraternity it is to belong to the Indiana State Police. As MacArthur said, I think of the Corps, when he gave his farewell address. I think of the troopers. They become number one in your life. Your wife knows that. You have a wife that's good and works with you, even rides the bus for you. You change. As a trooper, you change. You're molded by your surroundings and the people that you're next to. Okay? Goodness.
Well, that's it then.
I have if I bled, I would bleed State Police blue. Yes, I would. I bleed it now. State Police blue. And you will too, young trooper, after you go through several years on the department. Sorry.
No, that's wonderful.
Oh.
It's absolutely wonderful.
The old 248. Lord, what do they got now for PE numbers?
I'm 9040. That's mine.
Yeah.
I think they're in the 9200s now.
9400.
9400s.
That's fine. It doesn't matter whether you're 900 or you're 248, but you think back about that kid who became 248 one day, and all the good things that happened to him. Even when the superintendent accused him of talking on the phone, it didn't work. I'll think of 1,000 things after you two leave. You have, use words like honor, but you have set me up on a little pedestal to come here and talk to me and listen to me. Listen to the old guy who got bumblebees down his throat, down his jacket. They shot at him with a pistol. He shot back with a shotgun. Not going to fight any battles with a pistol. The technician gets to be involved in all the crime and why am I smiling? You get involved in all the slot machine raids, and now we guard them. Yeah, we used to pick them up, and there's a picture of me someplace in my moment in time. You'd see one of the peggers. I'm beating on a slot machine with a sledgehammer. Can't do that now. Oh, what a change, huh?
It is.
I'll think of 1,000 things after you leave. And sometime read my moment in time.
I will.
Part 1 and Part 2. You'll see some things in there that's interesting, I guess. After you talk to me, you'll see, oh, now I know why he said that. He's loony. No. I had a great life. How do you get to go? A kid from Osgood had a dog and a cat, and you get to work through the ranks and become a bird colonel on the state police.